So just want to start with a question, a little bit of background information. On July 25th of 2020, the Department of Health entered into a $22.9 million contract with Insight Global LLC. The purpose of said contract was to provide contact tracing staff for the state's contact tracing efforts related to the COVID-19 pandemic. In April of 2021, I learned of a potential breach with this third-party contractor, not from the department, but from a reporter out of Pittsburgh. So when all the dust settled, we found out that over 72,000 Pennsylvanians were impacted by this data sharing. Their personal health information, as well as their gender, their age, their sexual orientation, and COVID diagnosis status were all exposed. Many of those impacted were our children, and explaining the failure of state government to protect their children to parents, it was incredibly difficult. Additionally, in 2018, your office filed a lawsuit against Uber for, and I quote, a massive data breach. That breach impacted 13,500 Uber drivers. I would assume that those victims were over the age of 18. That settlement included $100 for every victim, or $1.35 million in total. The Insight Global data breach impacted, again, over 72,000 Pennsylvanians and their personal and sensitive healthcare information. This included children and adults. So General Shapiro, I appreciate that immediately following the news of the data breach, you said that your office was planning to look into this matter, like the Uber case. Did you consider this breach to be a massive data breach? And if you could, please share the status of your review of this matter, and would appreciate that.
No, thank you, Senator. Look, I consider this to be a serious data breach. I can't, in this setting, get into the status of our review of it. I do agree with you, and I know our offices have worked together on data breach policy ideas. That is an area where I would hope this body could come together, and certainly we would offer whatever assistance we can to assist you in this important work to protect Pennsylvanians, pardon me, from data breaches. We've seen it with Equifax. You mentioned Uber, and there have been many others, Insight as well. And so that is an area where I think we can strengthen our laws. It's an area where, quite frankly, there should be some federal standards about notification. We tend to have a patchwork of rules when it comes to who has to be notified of a data breach and when, and what the penalties are for failing to notify within a proper period of time. So I would welcome the chance to continue working with you on the policy. I can, in this setting, unfortunately, I'm sure you can understand, talk about the status of any investigation, but I do concur that it is of real concern.
Can you share why a lawsuit has not yet been filed?
Not in this setting.
Well, I appreciate the work that we've been able to do on data privacy, the collaboration with your office on ransomware attacks, which are very serious. And I would certainly hope that we take all of those data breaches very seriously, those in the private sector as well as those here in the public sector and our state government.
If I may, I didn't mean to speak over you, I apologize, but I agree that we need to take public and private sector data breaches equally as serious. Just because I'm not going to get into the specifics of an investigation in a setting like this doesn't mean that we don't take it seriously, doesn't mean that we don't carefully review this and other cases, including many that haven't made it in the news yet. And we would welcome the opportunity to work with you on strengthening those laws. There was some legislation that I know we were working on before. There were some members of the House working on it. It is an area that I think, sadly, we're going to be seeing more and more of, both with foreign actors. Obviously, we're all on very high alert given the war in Ukraine and given what we know Russia has the capability of doing, as well as with actors more in the private sector domestically. It's an area where we spend a considerable amount of time in concert with our federal partners. We have multiple task forces that we operate in to deal with data breaches, and anything we can do together to strengthen our laws here in the Commonwealth would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I appreciate that, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Again, these are some very challenging times, and the government, I think, should be held to a higher standard. We don't have a choice whether we interact with our state government or not, whereas in the private sector, we can make those decisions as rational actors in the marketplace. So I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate a second round of questioning. Thank you.
If I may just follow up with Senator Phillips-Hill, I think you're spot on the importance of government actors as well. We just brought a case in Philadelphia. It wasn't a state case, but a group there that was doing vaccines and other things called Philly Fighting COVID, brought a case and ultimately reached a settlement there. And part of that was how were we going to protect the data that was gathered from people. Ultimately, we were able to secure it and destroy it. But I couldn't agree with you more. Welcome the chance to work with you on it and appreciate your question.
Thank you very much.